Are you ready for the unexpected? Here we go. Number 1. Urine as cleaning product. This one sounds gross, but stick with me. Ancient Romans discovered that urine, yes, urine, was an amazing cleaning hack. Public urinals were collected and the liquid was sold to laundries. Why? Because urine contains ammonia, a powerful natural cleaner that breaks down stains and grease. Workers stomped clothes in vats of urine to whiten togas and freshen linens. To them, it was the equivalent of bleach. Romans even used urine for dental hygiene, rinsing their mouths with it because it killed bacteria. Before you gag, remember that modern mouthwash also relies on strong chemicals. Romans just skipped the lab and went straight to biology. And it worked well enough that the Roman emperor actually taxed the urine industry. Imagine your government making money every time you flushed. Disgusting. Absolutely. Effective, shockingly, yes. Number 2. Soap made from ashes and fat. When you think about hygiene in the ancient world, you probably imagine everyone stinking like a middle school locker room, but some ancient people figured out a hack so effective that we still use it today. Soap. The Babylonians over 4,000 years ago mixed animal fat with ashes and water to create the first version of soap. This was not lavender-scented bubble bath. It was a gritty paste that could strip grease and dirt off skin, hair, and even wool. The chemistry is brilliant. Fat and ash react to form lye, which breaks down oils and grime. That is exactly how modern soap works. Without realizing it, ancient Babylonians were running a chemistry lab in their kitchens. Imagine discovering that mixing burnt wood and goat fat could make you clean instead of smell like barbecue. This was not just about smelling nice either. It reduced disease. In a time when a simple infection could kill you, soap was a survival tool. Honestly, they hacked cleanliness before TikTok told people to shower. Number 3. Honey as medicine and food preserver. Honey looks like just a sweet treat, but to ancient civilizations it was basically a first aid kit in a jar. Egyptians, Greeks, and Romans used honey to dress wounds. Why? Because honey is naturally antibacterial. It sucks moisture out of bacteria cells, stopping them from growing. It also has enzymes that produce hydrogen peroxide. That means honey both cleans and protects injuries. And it worked so well that soldiers carried it into battle. Honey was also the ultimate food storage hack. Archaeologists have found sealed jars of honey in Egyptian tombs that are over 3,000 years old and still perfectly edible. Imagine buying something at the grocery store that could survive longer than most countries. Modern medicine still uses medical-grade honey for burns and infections. So while we spend billions developing antibiotics, ancient people were smearing breakfast spread on wounds and living to tell the tale. That is the definition of genius. Number 4. Charcoal as medicine and filter. Charcoal today is a trendy detox ingredient, but ancient people were way ahead. Egyptians, as early as 1500 BC, used activated charcoal to treat wounds and infections. They noticed it absorbed toxins and odors. They also used it to purify water. By filtering water through charcoal, they removed impurities without knowing a single thing about bacteria or chemistry. That is the power of observation. Soldiers in ancient India and Greece carried charcoal to protect against poison and food spoilage. Even Native Americans used it for stomach ailments. Modern hospitals still use activated charcoal to treat overdoses because it binds to toxins in the gut. So next time you see a fancy black charcoal latte at a cafe, remember that this is not new. It is a 3,000-year-old hack that worked so well it never went out of style. Number 5. Concrete that repairs itself. Everyone hates potholes. You hit one with your car, spill your coffee, and instantly curse modern engineering. But ancient Romans had a hack to avoid this problem. Their concrete was alive. Not literally, but chemically. They mixed volcanic ash lime and seawater in a way that created crystals inside the concrete. When cracks formed, rain or seawater seeped in and triggered more crystal growth, sealing the damage. Over time, their buildings got stronger instead of weaker. That is why Roman aqueducts, harbors, and even amphitheaters are still around after 2 millennia. Our concrete. It barely makes it 50 years. Engineers today are still trying to copy this recipe because it could save trillions in repair costs. Think about it. The Romans figured out how to build a driveway that fixes itself 2,000 years before we invented the Roomba. That is the kind of life hack every city mayor wishes they had. Number 6. Fireproof clothes from asbestos. Today, we know asbestos as the villain hiding in old ceilings. But to ancient people, it was a miracle material. The Greeks and Romans discovered that if you wove asbestos fibers into fabric, you could make cloth that resisted fire. Imagine tossing a dirty napkin into the flames and pulling it out clean and intact. That was their laundry hack. They even used it for funeral shrouds so bodies could be cremated while the cloth remained. Some wealthy Romans showed off asbestos tablecloths that were thrown into the fire after dinner and came back spotless. At the time, nobody knew it caused lung disease. To them, it was like magic fabric. A hack that made chores vanish in a puff of smoke. If you ignore the tragic health consequences, it was brilliant. Honestly, the idea of fireproof clothing would still be a bestseller today if it did not come with a side of cancer. Number 7. Ice houses that made ancient refrigerators. Before electricity, before freezers, people still wanted cold drinks and fresh food. The Persians figured out an incredible hack called the yakchal. These were massive dome-shaped structures built partly underground with thick walls made of special insulating mortar. In winter, ice was collected and stored inside. Thanks to the design, the ice stayed frozen through the scorching summer. That meant chilled water, preserved food, and even ice cream in the desert. The system used wind catchers to funnel cool air inside and evaporation to keep temperatures low. It was basically air conditioning and refrigeration combined, all without electricity. Some of these ice houses are still standing today, a reminder that people living in the desert 2,000 years ago managed to beat the heat better than many modern cities do. Imagine flexing on your neighbors by pulling out ice cubes in July when the nearest glacier was hundreds of miles away. That is peak ancient genius. Closing thoughts. 7 hacks. 7 moments when ancient people outsmarted the future. They washed with ashes and fat, healed wounds with honey, built self-repairing concrete, wore fireproof fabrics, scrubbed clothes with urine, purified water with charcoal, and chilled drinks in the desert. These were not random tricks. They were clever, practical, and effective solutions to everyday problems. The fact that many of them are still used today proves just how brilliant they were. So while we think of life hacks as a modern internet trend, the truth is our ancestors were doing it thousands of years ago, and sometimes doing it better. If you enjoyed this dive into ancient genius, hit that subscribe button before I start washing your clothes the Roman way.